Welcome to Penji's Podcast. Today, we're going to discuss agency failures, when you're stuck having to market a non-ideal product, and the infamous Myspace. I'm your host, Shannon, Partnership Coordinator at Penji, and I have Johnathan and Khai with me here today. Let's get started. What do you think successful agencies are doing differently than failed agencies?
I'm not sure if this is controversial or not, but I think the one main thing that successful agencies are slowly starting to understand is the ability to outsource. And I think the most successful businesses or the most successful agencies are the ones that understand where and when to outsource their design or when to outsource their email management, their product management, etc. I think for the longest time, it was like, we need an employee in the office. But now with like Zoom and Google Meet and all these other products and services, it's so much easier now to go digital. It's so much easier to go, it's so much easier to go digital. It's so much easier to not have that space of like in office. So yeah, to answer the question, I would love to hear your opinion, Khai, but I think outsourcing is the easiest answer.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there because one of the woes of agency is profitability. Right? Talent is only getting more and more expensive every single year. Every agency can account for this. The cost of talent is only going up every single year. And so as an agency, how do you scale your agency while still maintaining profitability? So I think if we are to look at it from the angle of profits, then for sure, the agencies that are going to be most successful are the ones that understands when, where, and how to scale some of their most important talents. The ones who are going to be struggling are the ones that are always taking on in-house talents in order to service clients. Because imagine, if you're an agency, you just got a new client, which will demand more talents. And now you have to hire additional designers, developers, etc. in-house. That's permanent cost for a client who may not be as permanent.
Yeah, I want to add on top of that too, because if you're a single person, like a single member LLC, or if you're just a one man or one woman show, I think the other alternative to that is knowing when to pull the trigger on outsourcing or hiring your first, because I think there's a lot of times that a single person business is going to run themselves into the ground to the point where they're not only drowning in work, but they don't even have the time or ability to manage or hire their employee. So I think it's a matter of discipline, really. But what do you think about that? Like, if you were a single person agency, when would you outsource, and when would you consider bringing on your first employee?
Oh yeah. I think delegation is another challenge delegation is also another challenge that smaller agencies are going to run into. It's much harder to grow an agency from, let's say, 1 employee to 10 employees versus one growing from 10 employees to 100 employees. And a large part of that is when you are a smaller agency. If you are a mom and pop agency or you're running this with a couple of co-founders, then your time is infinitely valuable. And the cost of managing freelancers, because outsourcing has a hidden cost, which in many cases is going to be your time. So if you're not factoring that into the equation, it's actually going to cost your business a whole lot more versus actually just hiring somebody in-house, at least initially. So if you know how to outsource and you know how to outsource responsibly in a way where it doesn't eat into your schedule and take you away from sales and support, because let's face it, those are the most important functions for an early stage agency. You're the ones doing the sales. You're the ones that got to support the client. When they have a question, they're not contacting your freelancer, they're contacting you. And so if you're not readily available and you always have to work a night shift, remember when we have to do that? If you have to work a night shift in order to work with your outsourced team, it's going to take a lot away from your agency's ability to get new clients and support existing clients.
Yeah. I think most agency clients want is accessibility to your inbox as often as possible.
Oh God.
I think the answer, more or less, the number of clients, and I'd like to see if you agree with me, but the number of clients that you should begin to outsource is probably about 5.
Right. Yeah.
So I think after your 5th customer, of course it depends on profit margins, and of course it depends on how much you're charging and things like that. But I think 5 is like a really good number for you to say, okay, it's time for me to get rid of design, or it's time for me to get rid of development, or it's time for me to get rid of whatever that X is that is great about your agency. That's when you begin to outsource. And I love the word that you used is outsourcing responsively.
Yeah. And I agree. 5 clients, as Johnathan was saying, at around 5 clients, I think that's the perfect number to really consider a plan for how you're going to delegate and outsource everything. Outsourcing is no longer a stigma like it used to be back in 2005. Nowadays, you have to in order to maintain profitability.
The other day, I spoke to an agency in Australia, and it was 3 gentlemen that were a part of the agency, and they had the agency for 15 years. And all of their designers were in-house. And because of the rising economy, because of things like inflation, this is the first time in their entire history that they now have to consider outsourcing. And the conversation lasted about, I say 40 minutes, because to be honest, I think they were very scared of bringing on that new talent. But I think when you find the right fit, whether that be a service like ours at Penji, or even just like another provider service, when you find that perfect partner, it becomes a symbiotic relationship. And that's a little cheesy to say, but it really is a partnership. It's not just a credit card transaction, or it's not just a check that you send. It's a partnership.
Yeah, it's funny to say symbiotic. That reminds me of Venom. You guys know Spider-Man. That is a symbiotic relationship.
What is the truest form?
Yeah, and another thing. Here's something that only experienced agencies know. You can outsource almost anything. There's one thing that you should not outsource yet, and that is sales. I see a lot of agencies, they will outsource sales almost immediately. The problem is that with any agency, you are your best salesman. No one is actually better than you. No one is capable of answering all your clients' rejection, and especially giving your potential clients the confidence as you are. So sales, given you're charging a lot of money, I'm going to assume you're charging obviously a good amount for your service. Don't outsource sales. Outsource everything else but sales. Wait until you are at a comfortable enough point and you can bring at least one capable salesperson in-house to handle the demo calls, handle talking to your customers. That's when you can start delegating sales. Sales is very tricky. If you delegate it too early, you're going to suffer.
Yeah,
financially.
Agreed. And I think to answer Shannon's question, which was the opposite of the success, the success and the failure. I think the failure aspect is the sales. If you outsource it too quickly, you're going to take a hit. And nobody can sell the business better than the creator, or nobody can sell the business better than like somebody who's invested in the business 100%. And you can't typically, it's very, very difficult to find that from an outsourced type of employee.
Yeah. I can tell you with full confidence that successful agencies all have these 3 things in common. Number 1, they simply provide more value to their clients than what they actually charge. All of their clients feel like they're getting such a great deal by working with this agency. So that's number 1. You can't beat that. Number 2, they listen. Whatever their clients' needs are, whatever the pain points are, these agencies, they take the time to really listen to their clients so that way they can better service them. And number 3, they're honest with results. A lot of agencies assume that their clients are stupid, right? And they'll just BS the results, the reports, or whatever. Don't do that. Always assume that your clients are just as intelligent, if not more capable than you are, and be really honest with their results. So those are the 3 things. Number 1, deliver more value than what you actually charge. Number 2, listen to your clients. And number 3, be honest with the results.
If you've just onboarded a new client for your agency, how do you get them on their first sale?
As soon as you get your first customer, the first thing you do is absolutely nothing, because you should take their money and you should run as fast and as far away as you can.
First thing to do for them, their first sale, my first sale.
Yeah.
That's our first sale.
You pay yourself and then you consider paying them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
First thing is Chick-fil-A, no more Burger King.
Correct. But to seriously answer that question, I think to get your client their first sale, you have to have a discovery process in some aspects, because what is the major pain point, right? So for example, if you have an e-commerce brand, obviously their first sale needs to come from the website. You need to have all of the conversion trackers readily available to make sure that everything is firing correctly. So when you do place that ad for $1 or whatever it is, it's going to turn into a sale. I think once you identify what their biggest pain point is, that's when their true success becomes. Because what I've found is a lot of agencies and businesses, and especially marketing teams, they are hired to do a particular job and then they do the thing that they know and love. And sometimes that's not always going to be the case that resonates with your customer. So I think if your customer is really asking for more sales from an online avenue, you go all in and you only talk about that thing. You don't talk about social media. You don't talk about going viral. You don't talk about YouTube. If they say Facebook ads, you talk about Facebook ads on every call. If they say Google ads, you talk about Google ads in every single call and nothing more.
Yeah. I would say clients would typically hire an agency to help with their marketing, their advertising, typically all related to the sales funnel. The first thing, and I agree with what you're saying, John, the first thing that I would tackle would be figuring out where they're wasting money. Because every time we onboarded a client, whether it's for SEO, for social media management, or whatever the case is, we still do a complete analysis to see where you're really spending your budget. You want to do it on social media? Where do you actually get customers? And a lot of clients don't actually know, or they're just not as aware of their data as they should be. Another angle, actually, I think number two, the second thing that I would do is clean up their data. A lot of companies don't have good data, or they don't know how to look at their data. So I would look at all the data that they have for advertising, marketing, social media, etc., put it together in an easier to read format, so that way they can clearly see where their money actually makes the most impact.
Yeah, I'm going to say this might be controversial, but I think you should never pay for any type of analytical software at all, point blank, period, in the first 1 to 3 to even maybe 5 years of your business. The reason why is because, number one, Google has all of these resources for you for essentially free. And so when we first started, I think I begged and pleaded for this stupid $10, $20 a month service that generated and auto-populated all the analytics and things like that. And what I found that I'm doing more today is I'm literally going on Google's products. I'm putting that data in a Google sheet, and then I'm presenting that data with, our team.
Yeah.
And to me, that's so much easier to do than any type of analytical software. Again, some analytical software is great, but it just, in my opinion, doesn't work for agencies.
Yeah.
Or businesses for that matter.
Yeah. If you're an agency who sends out weekly reports, be careful with this trap. You can still send out your weekly reports because a lot of clients, they want to see a whole gigantic report. They're not going to read it. Most of your clients don't actually read the reports that you send them. Here's what you do. First, get your clients to become obsessed with 1 or 2 important numbers that you could change. So don't rely on this entire report to sell for you, because ultimately what you want at the end of each month is that the client continues to work with you. And you don't know how they're going to read that report. Don't leave it up to chance. Get them obsessed over a specific number. Make sure you can actually increase that number. And then each week or each month, as you're sending out the report, also send a summary email and saying, hey, Shannon, hypothetically, Shannon, let's say you're my client, right? Shannon, last month, we got blank number of likes for your post. This month, we got this much more. It's 20% increase, right? When you send it that way, it's easy for them to see your value.
Now, what happens if you have a bad month? Because that does happen from time to time. So what type of email would you send to somebody that you didn't necessarily do a good job for?
That's a great question. And I think this circles back to the original point I made, which is be honest with your results. Don't assume that they don't know the numbers, because they might. So if you're not able to increase the metrics that month, be honest with them. Tell them that you couldn't increase or whatever, but also make sure to tell them why it happened. And what clients really want to hear is what you're going to do different next month. Be honest with them, and then tell them your game plan for next month. And in most situations, it should be okay.
I will be honest and say, in the very beginning of our career, I absolutely fudged, numbers here and there, just to find a way to say something positive. But as the career has come about, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you have to, number one, be honest, but and number two, you have to be able to find a way to fix that problem. That's just the most important thing. Because if you can't fix the problem, then you should give them their money back anyways.
Yeah.
But I think fixing the problem, even when it's bad, is still good.
Yeah. Another thing, something that you should also know is that most agencies aren't honest with their clients, or they're not as radically honest as the clients want them to be. So how you can retain clients is actually being the one agency that is radically transparent and honest with them, because that's very new to them. And even if you're not able to deliver results just yet, they're much more likely to stay because they trust you, because they know that you're being honest. And when things are good, they know that it's actually real and you're not just fudging numbers.
What's the best way to differentiate yourself from your competition?
To succeed in today's world and to separate yourself from your competition, you need to be authentic and you need to deliver authenticity. It's paramount in order to be authentic because, number one, people understand lying, cheating, stealing. They understand gimmicks. Yeah, I think you said it brilliantly earlier about you need to think that your customers are smarter than you. I think that also goes in with your marketing. I think the one thing that we did a really good job of marketing Penji is always being our truest self. And I think it starts with something like this show that we're doing now with the podcast is delivering information for free. There are people that are out there right now that are selling courses in order to do exactly what we're trying to do. And to be honest, it's a little unfair. And it creates, in my opinion, a bad rep for businesses that are successful because there isn't a cookie cutter solution in order to run this type of business. There isn't a one size fits all. So I think in order for you to be successful, in order to differentiate yourself, and also if you're an agency, differentiate your client from their competitors, is find a way to have that core mission of the company and go all in on that mission and double down on it. Create a podcast, have a series online, maybe just meeting people in person if that's the type of business. Like, be your authentic and truest form.
Yeah. In addition to authenticity, I want to add one more thing. A question that a lot of agencies ask their clients, or you as a brand ask yourself, is how are we different, or how are they different? I want to challenge that. Stop asking the question, how are we different from our competitors? Instead, ask your clients or ask yourself, how are you better? Not different, better, because that's a very different question. Just being different doesn't mean you're useful. Being different doesn't mean that you're better, right? And being different also doesn't mean that people are going to buy from you. People will only buy from you, and you're only truly different when you are actually better. So look at your business, look at your product, service, look at your agency, and ask yourself, how are we better, not different?
How do you prove that you're better, though?
To prove that you're better, I think is a great question to ask. And like, how? I think it just takes time. I think a lot of agencies will always believe that they're better because the agency is the one doing the marketing, but I think you have to do that via numbers. You have to go back to what you were saying, find those 2 key points that you know for sure you can change, and then just keep going in on those, right? I don't know what those numbers are right now, but I'm pretty sure you can find it. Maybe it's website traffic, maybe it's dollars spent, maybe it's social following. I mean, there's so many factors that can go into this, but I think you have to really focus on those 2 things and let the client know that it's going to take time in order for you to be there. It's not an overnight success. You will not be able to do it, get rich quick type of schemes. You really have to go all in on just honesty and transparency.
Do you think Myspace was a massive success? Why or why not?
If there is one person on earth right now, I would most likely want to be Tom from Myspace. I think Myspace was a massive success. I do not think that Myspace would be a massive success if it was launched today. I think because the cutting edge of smartphones, I think the attention span of people as a whole, they would not be able to get behind Myspace the way that Myspace was at the height of of its existence. So personally, I don't know if you agree, but I think MySpace was an absolute massive success, but it would absolutely die. I don't even think it would even come close to where it is or where it was if it was launched today.
Yeah, I think to answer is, what was MySpace a massive success or a massive failure? I would say both. It's both a success and a failure. It's an absolute financial success, especially for Tom, the original founder of MySpace. But I would say it's a failure in a sense where it basically, MySpace pioneered social media. And it's what got us to where we are today. And we're not going to spend a whole hour talking about the disadvantages and the issues that social media as a whole has caused for, young girls. Social media as a whole has caused a lot of issues to society. That's a whole entire topic that we can explore. So I would say there is definitely a gray moral area that MySpace contributed to. So that, I would say, was a failure. Now, on the flip side of the same coin, it's also a massive success where social media gave voice to those who we wouldn't have heard of before. Twitter, for example, it's a great platform for those without any fame or notoriety to share their voice. And so in that sense, I would say what he did is both a massive success and a massive failure, depending on how you look at it.
I think the biggest driver of success for MySpace in particular was the friends aspect, because it created a sense of belonging. It also created a sense of referral network. So like you wanted another individual to be your friend, even if they weren't really your actual friend, right? And you would put them into your top friends. And so I think like, if we want to talk about one of the best marketing campaigns in existence, it would be the referral aspect of MySpace. I wanted my actual friends to be a part of my top friends. So I would easily send them a link, or I would talk about it at school or whatever it may be. Like when I was in school in Philly, like everybody talked about MySpace and everybody talked about top friends. And if you were in top friends and there was a female or a male in your top friends, it immediately meant that you were like dating them.
Right. Imagine getting taken off of the top friends though. Man, that would suck. Pain.
That would suck.
What was your favorite feature from MySpace?
Poking was Facebook. Right. That was awkward.
Poking was Facebook?
Yeah, I think poking was Facebook. This is going to sound pretty ghetto, but when I was in school, you were able to create an avatar.
Oh yeah.
And then the avatar, you'd be able to like dress them up in like different particular clothing. Looking back, I cringe, but I think that was probably the coolest / weirdest feature of like customizing yourself, because like I'm not a designer, I'm not an artist. So I would use templated things to make myself look cooler than what I actually was. But in actuality, I was just like a big nerd with glasses that sat behind a computer desk, and I was on AIM for 20 hours a day. So it made me feel good.
You know what's the most annoying feature of MySpace? Do you guys remember the HTML editor where, like, honestly, that was a great tool to teach people how to code. But man, when you go to some of these pages and the stupid music just started playing, it was the most frustrating thing. MySpace would not survive pop-up blockers nowadays.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Great title. Shannon, did you use MySpace? Or was that like before your time?
Seeing as MySpace was made in 2003, I would say my older sister was on it, but I was not. Where do you think Tom, the creator of MySpace, is right now with his $580 million?
So speaking of Tom, $580 million this guy was able to receive. I want to believe that he took the Jeff Bezos approach where Jeff Bezos' wife's approach, where ex-wife approach, where she's giving away all of his money, basically. I want to hope and pray that he's donating it and doing good with that $580 million. But based on his Twitter feed of him traveling the world, I don't know if that's true. But if you had $580 million, what do you think you would do with it?
You know what's funny? $580 million is a lot of money. I want to look up something. The cost of Jeff Bezos' yacht. I think it's $500 million. What do you think, John?
How much of his yacht? Well, I think Zuckerberg just purchased one for $300 million.
Yeah. So as cool as it sounds that Tom exited for $580 million, guess what, Shannon? Jeff Bezos' yacht is $500 million.
Yeah.
That's just a whole nother level.
I think a yacht is like the most amount of money that you can have where it doesn't matter anymore, because a yacht is like the most douchiest thing that you could buy. Like who actually needs a yacht? Number one, you can rent a yacht. You can rent one and it'll be cheaper. You can just go on a regular boat. That's cool too. No one needs a yacht. I'm sorry, like no one needs a yacht. No one needs to go on. Like,
speak for yourself, John.
I'm sorry. Maybe I'm old fashioned. Maybe I have no idea. But no one needs a yacht. Like really, like go do something else. But what I also find pretty hypocritical are all the things that people are doing in order to make the world a better place, do good for the environment. And then these people are deciding to go on a yacht and pollute as probably more than what an average human would be able to do. I find a lot of issues with yachts.
I think the complete opposite. I think yachts are very necessary for preserving the environment, because like, think about it. A yacht is able to house a lot of people, right? Who would have driven cars, right? Who would have left them with a larger footprint. But no, you gather all these people in one place. Jeff Bezos, the amount of carbon emission he would have emitted by flying around in his private jet, just one yacht is able to reduce that by like 99%. So if anything, I think yachts is almost necessary for protecting our environments.
So if a yacht is the equivalent of massive success to like a founder or a billionaire, what is the equivalent of that to a startup founder?
I think a smaller yacht. I think everyone should buy a yacht.
All right.
I don't have one yet. I'm just kidding. How about you, John?
I was going to say like a rowboat.
Rowboat?
Yeah, a rowboat.
Just learn to swim first.
Yeah, or swimmers. You have the swimmers that are on your hand and you're just coasting by. I think that's probably the equivalent version of like a startup or like an agency type of thing. You just have a singular buoy that you're just holding on to for dear life.
I think it's a surfboard.
Yeah, surfboard. Yeah.
Shaped like a yacht.
Yeah.
You're getting there.
Yeah. Well, anyways, good conversation today.
Yeah, good chat, John. Thank you, Shannon. You've been a wonderful host. And actually, let me just pull my plug, right? And for everyone watching, thank you for tuning in today. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button if you like to hear conversations and stories like this. We're very excited to introduce our guest next week. So tune in again, same time next week, and we'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to Penji's podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a lovely day.